Hi everyone, welcome to a recorded version of the IFB podcast. I am your host, Matt Scott, as usual. Had a few internet issues last night, unfortunately. I'm recording this on the next day, on Friday the 21st. Very sorry to not be able to do a episode live, especially if this is the last episode of the season, as Fnatic did not make it out of groups, and since this is a Fnatic centric podcast, because there's not much more to be said for the season except for off season, but we'll probably do something specific for this. There won't be anything else to talk about in terms of games. So what I have for you on this final episode is obviously week two of groups. The unfortunate situation in which I'd say the West as a whole has put themselves, and how the Asian teams are just performing really well overall, as usual. The very sad exit from Fnatic, who either overperformed week one or just shat the bed week two. We'll talk about this in a second. And what I think Fnatic, or yeah, what I think Fnatic will do coming into the off season. Again, this is not necessarily what I want to happen. This is just the changes that I think are going to happen going forward. So we'll talk about this. There might be some controversial takes. You guys tell me, leave it in a comment down in the YouTube comments. Um, Anyways, let's get ourselves started with the final standing at Worlds. Um, every group is topped by Korean or LPL team for Group B. But it's still, I would say, overall Korean dominance. All the Korean teams have made it out of their respective groups. So we have four Korean teams going into playoffs, which I think is quite impressive. To say that your four seeds are able to make their way all along into playoffs. Definitely, LCK is looking like the strongest region right now, especially when you see that they've topped three of the four groups they're in. Genji being the only first seed in what am I saying? Well, basically with DRX being the seed who was in play-ins, managing to top their group, and the only group that wasn't topped by a Korean team was where the LPL first seed resides with JDG. So going over the groups one by one, Fnatic had a great start. Obviously, went 0-3, lost their first game against Cloud9, disaster, and I think from that point onward, it was kind of clear that Fnatic wasn't going to make it out. Cloud9 looked good in their first games, and then just played their usual self. T1 and EDG looked like they, a bit like I predicted last week, adapted themselves to sort of another level of meta, another level of playing against their opponents, and T1 looked untouchable. EDG looked immovable, at least against Fnatic and Cloud9. And so, unfortunately, Fnatic didn't make it out. T1, who's looking very strong, I would say, so far, is topping their group, and we have definitely a strong performance from Zeus in the top lane, which I think will be the guy to look out for, at least for the playoffs going in. Group B was actually quite an interesting one. I would say actually a bit of the same fate as Group A, as G2 also fell against Evil Genius, which, when you think about it, is a bit funny because G2 hadn't lost a game against Evil Geniuses this year. since they faced each other at MSI. And as week 2 goes, it feels like the things that were meant to happen happened, and G2 fell against Evil Geniuses, have a joint last place, and Damon Key at GDG, I think, were the biggest bangers in the groups. To be honest, both teams really pushed themselves to their maximum, and obviously the first seed LPL with their style, and it's crazy to think about it. How, like, if you haven't watched the games, I really urge you to go and see how they play the team fights. It's unmatched. It really is unmatched. How it looks that they're in a position to completely lose the team fight, and somehow they manage to hit the back line or turn around a situation and end up acing the enemy team. I'm too bad at the game to be able to explain what's actually happening in those situations, but it's really insane how they're able to set that up every time. And with only one loss in their games, I definitely think they're going into playoffs as one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win it all. I'm having a hard time seeing who can match their playstyle right now. Um, what I will say is that I had this actually out of the 4 groups, I had 3 groups completely correct. If Fnatic hadn't shit the bed, I had 4 perfect groups in my predictions. But it is what it is, as we say. Um, Moving forward to Group C. No, that came really, really close to basically have no Western team, but actually no EU team in what do you call it? In the playoffs. Rogue almost lost to GAM Esports in the beginning. It was a very close game. Thankfully, 1 or 2 good team fights here, especially from Larson, which I think has played incredibly well. This I think this season as a whole, but was able to turn around some team fights, or at least start some team fights to bring his team level and take the advantages in some situations. But apart from that, lost to DRX, lost to Top Esports, and if it weren't from that insane base defense from GAM Esports against Top Esports to win the game, there's a high chance that, first of all, Rogue would have gone into a tiebreaker against Top Esports, and that in the end, had I think if Rogue went into that tiebreaker, there's a chance they would have lost because I don't know. There was what was usually the NA Week 2 curse has transferred over to you. We on the second week we are 1-8, I believe, in terms of scoreline, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1-8. That is very, very bad. That is very, very bad. So how do I say this? Um, I don't know what happened to EU teams, but something changed. And I did announce that something would happen week 2 because there's always something that happens where some of the dark horses or the 0-3 teams manage to get a game out of some of the teams were fighting for that top two spot, and it pretty much happened more or less across all the groups, right? When you think about it. For Group C, it happened that Rogue was the one who got lucky there and got away with the win. But other than that, you know, other than that, there wasn't much for Rogue to hang on to. So I think Rogue can be very happy to have GAM Esports take a game of top esports and at least get into the quarterfinals. I won't spoil what happened last night on the quarterfinals, as it's initially wasn't supposed to be the subject of this podcast, but I'll let you guys watch the game. So, but yeah, a bit disappointing. I think disappointing from the West in general. Gonna talk about Group D. I'm just thinking about something, but I think I'll mention it after going over Group D, which I think Group D was I'd say easiest to predict. Even though Gen G fell to RNG in the first week, I feel like Gen G played way better and won both games against RNG. So the second round robin and the tiebreaker game, 100 Thieves were easily the worst NA team out there. Flying Oysters, I mean, I think they fought well. I was expecting a bit more from them since they come from the same region where PSG Talent comes from, and I usually rate those people. So I'm unsure about if I probably overestimated them. I can't remember exactly all the games they played, but it feels like for those regions there's a bigger focus into and I think who was it? Is it 369 who's talking about it, or some other top laner who's saying Western regions, even minor regions, don't play their lanes well enough, so they have to compensate with good team fighting because they lose incremental advantages that they try to catch up in team fights. And I feel that's where the minor regions get their strength. But the thing is, when you're against, I think LPL and LCK teams, but even more LPL, they are the kings of team fighting. Again, if you watch GDG team fight, they're unmatched. So I think overall for this Group G, Gen G comes way stronger than they did during week one, and can be a strong contender going forward. I'll add this. What was it I was gonna say? Can't remember. Yes. When it felt that the gap between the West and the East was, getting narrower, this year feels like it's gotten bigger than ever. It feels like we're back to 2015, 2016 levels of gaps where eventually we meet the top LCK LPL teams. There's nothing we can do to match them, and it's kind of scary for two reasons. Well, first is that It feels like every time we get to catch up, it takes many, many years for us to get there. The second, and I hope this is not a path we take, especially in LEC, that usually translate into more imports. Now, so this is just a personal preference on my side. I take pride in having full European teams represent us at international events. They say that we're able to make it. They obviously are going to say, but Mascot, Rogues actually has Malrank in it, so it doesn't hang, and they're the number one seed. And I'm gonna say yeah, and that's you know, Malrank was very good in the finals and everything. And I don't know if that's a sign for things to come for the next season. I really hope it isn't. I really hope it isn't because again, I think we have enough talent, both in terms of players and staff, to match some of these LCK teams. Can we match the first seed? I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, it has happened for MSIs. Like Team Liquid did beat IG in 2019 in a best of 5. G2 beat T1 in a best of 5. So, you know, I can't predict exactly what will happen, but did I put this here? I did not put this here. Sorry, guys. I think I forgot to add a slide. Okay, let me see if I can. I'll just add it on top. It won't be nice visually, but it's the easiest way to do this. Actually, you know what? I'll do you one better. I'll do this. I'll do that, and I think I forgot to save it altogether. Or did I? No, it's here. Okay, cool. Hopefully you can see this properly, but this is kind of my prediction for playoffs. So obviously we know the results from last night, but I think that was pretty obvious. I've got T1 over RNG, GNG over Damwon, although this could go either way. This one I wasn't sure. I'm only basing it on how GNG has played on the second week. There's a high chance that Damwon actually wins here. I don't know why. There's something. I'm smelling something here. Edward Gaming against DRX. I don't know. Maybe it's because they played against Fnatic, but I think ADG is definitely the favorites here. So this would give us GGG versus T1. I think GGG is just going to slap them. Probably a 3-1. GenG versus ADG. Again, still basing myself on recent form. I'm going to say GenG. DDG versus GenG. I don't know. I kind of believe in Chovy supremacy right now, seeing how this guy continuously just plays at such a high level. So I'm going to go with him, and I think he's going to be able to do some damage for sure. So I don't know what you guys think. Let me know your predictions in the comments. I think that it's maybe if it's GG, if it's a different team that's gonna make it. But yeah, those are my predictions so far. I guess it's time, guys. I guess it's time we talk about our boys. Unfortunately, what can I say, man? It's such a disappointment. It's such a massive disappointment. Where do I start? I mean, okay. I'm when I spoke about our performances last week, right? And I was saying, oh, I'm feeling pretty confident it's gonna happen, unless there's some, you know, bullshit spoiler team like Cloud9 does something. Of course it had to happen. Of course it had to happen. And when I saw Cloud9's draft, I was like, oh, something's changed. It's weird. They're drafting the Ornn. They're drafting like a real composition. I was still hopeful, but man, when we lost that first game, and the clownery we were doing, just like chasing, TPing to grab some kills, I was like, oh fuck, we're so desperate for stuff. And man, I couldn't watch the T1 game, and I didn't get the chance to watch it anyways. I saw some snippets here and there. It looked like it started well, but you know, T1 being T1. Because I was at a football game. I was playing football with my friends, and what happened is that once I finished the football game, I got the results for Fnatic versus T1. The moment I saw we lost, I was like, well, that's it. That's pretty much it. Because if you guys watched the graphic that I showed last week, it's like pretty much the Cloud9 game is a must win, and um, the second game we need to win at all cost is T1 or EDG. Now, obviously, last week we were super hopeful, like, oh, the EDG game was actually almost won despite the very bad start. You know, just ban Yumi and that's it. Of course, we forget to ban Yumi again, um, which I'm not too sure why that's the case. I think actually there might be a reason here, because someone um, on the Fnatic Reddit, I think, did a little summary of what was said by Yamato. Uh, mm, 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 mm. I believe he explained the Yumi situation. That instead, yeah, okay, so it feels that okay, so initially the reason why we weren't banning Yumi is that if we banned Yumi, they had Lucian Nami, and then we didn't have an answer for it. And to be honest, like we saw it. Um, we saw it against how do you call it? Against Rogue, on how we were unable to, basically not do anything once they had Lucian Nami on their side. So it's, I don't know if it's lack of practice, lack of analysis, lack of player skills, but it's a bit annoying that we just inadvertently just checkmate ourselves into a situation where we we have to let Yumi open, or else we don't know how to answer against a different composition. And Yumi's just such a strong character right now, and paired with Sivir, it, like I'd literally have to look at the win rate, but it feels like so far, no one is able to play against this composition. You know, so for me, I don't know who this falls on in terms of faults. Again, if it's from the team, if it's from the staff, if it's from the coach. But putting Yumi in the hands of EDG, of T1, of whoever, but especially those top teams, you're just asking to lose, really. So yeah, I mean, you just look at how we played, how we drafted. We were drafting super well week one, and it feels like we were too one-dimensional going forward, and we got figured out pretty easily. So, um, yeah, I don't know how else I can word that disappointment right now. It's it really feels. Actually, if I recap over the year, and having read also the recap on what Yamato said, that we've just walked past our season. Like, with a roster of this caliber and, super team, yes, no, I'll let you guys figure that out for yourselves. But it feels like we should have at least had one trophy, something going our way. And we didn't make a single final. We made it out of play-ins, but not out of groups, which, we wanted to at least make playoffs. And the way we bow out of groups is just by going 0-3. After going on a very convincing 2-1, which could have been a 3-0 again, if that early game didn't go the way it did. Man, it's just... it just feels like desperation from this point onwards. And, reading the recap on Yamato, it feels like there was a bit of burnout, lack of practice, lack of personality inside the group. So everyone was a bit shy. I thought there were a bit more outspoken people, but I guess not. Yeah, it just feels like we lacked a voice within the team. And this could be maybe the move to make for next season. But yeah, oh yeah, we couldn't play against Caitlyn as well. Yeah, just it's just very sad. It's just very sad. Difficulties to make a great team. Yeah. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know what to make out of this season. Obviously, it's very disappointing we didn't get any trophies. It feels at the same time that so many things went wrong. There's so many problems. At least for once, I'll say this: there weren't any drama this season within the team, so that's a big step forward. We've done something right here at least, but other than that, what can you make of this season? It's yeah. There's a bit of both, There's a bit of happiness because we looked very dominant. We saw the potential. We saw Razork being an incredible jungler. We saw Humanoid potentially being one of the best mid laners at Worlds. We've seen Upset going crazy, getting pentakills, solo killing Guma in lane. We've seen Wunder doing amazing despite getting a lot of pressure and getting dove on many times and being able to play out those situations. We had Hilly have a super spring split to the point where he was considered for MVP. I mean, we've had flashes here and there, but nothing consistent throughout the season. I think that's really what cost us in the end. Oh man, it's such a shame. It's such a shame we don't get anything from this. It really felt like this was the year as well with the type of players that we got in. It felt like the whole organization made such an effort to make things happen and work. And the fact that we have nothing to put on the shelves for it, man, how sad, how sad. It's very hard for me to make a conclusion out of the season. Like the initial conclusion that I done was very doom and gloom. To say, obviously, we didn't manage to get a trophy. We didn't manage to get anything. You know, not a finals. I was actually saying that this would quite possibly be one of the worst seasons for Fnatic when you consider the players we've had. Obviously, everybody will talk about 2016 being the worst season, rightfully so. But the players that we had weren't crazy on every lane. Here, the players that we had, they were all, you know, have been or were top three in their position at one point, and yeah, just nothing happened. Nothing happened. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next season. That's all we can say. Just send your support to the boys, and let's go 2023. Speaking of which, what's next for Fnatic, guys? We're seeing a lot of people on your screen right now, and my personal take on this is that I think we're potentially seeing two departures. The first one being Yamato. The Yamato departure, I think, makes sense. Not only because his contract is coming to an end, but I believe he said it himself that if he's unable to get a trophy with this roster in particular, that he would not be continuing. So, who do we get as a coach? Now, it seems that the first rumors are saying that Crusher, who was the coach of Fnatic Team Kesso, Fnatic's Academy team, if you don't know who that is, would be the one taking over. Now, speaking of Fnatic Team Kesso, obviously they won their season in spring. They had somewhat of a decent showing at EUM. I think they lost in quarters against a French team. Happens. Had a terrible summer split to the point where they didn't even make playoffs of the Spanish league. Totally unrecognizable. Very sad. So the season from Crusher was, both very good and both very bad at the same time. Where he managed to win it all to the point where he didn't manage to even qualify for playoffs. So it's very hard for me to evaluate him, the quality of a coach, what he's actually able to bring to the team. If he's the one we go for, I just hope it's not some form of Spanish nepotism where Dardo is bringing him in because they're from the same country. I don't know. I I don't know enough about him from this season to see if he's good. Obviously he can say that he got a trophy with his team. That's fair enough. But at the same time, the summer split was not great at all. So yeah, is he able to pilot an LEC caliber team? His goal will be to get us a trophy. Is he the right guy for it? I don't know. At the same time, we have Peter Dunn. Peter Dunn, who's known for finding the right players. I believe he's the one that found players like Larson and such. And we've seen what they've been able to do. This He's got a good eye for players with potential, and I feel like if we're trying to build something, he might be the right person for it. We'll see. Um, Last suggestion would be, I know this is kind of crazy. But that's my personal preference. Is I would like to have Mac. I value his coaching quite a bit, and not just because he won 2021 with his team, but I think he's capable of doing big things with any roster he's given. Um, Obviously, what happened with Rieker wasn't great, but getting Niski, he really managed to rebuild Mad Lions and get them a bit closer, and actually managed to get them a spot at Worlds despite not winning any best of five. So I think that has to count for something, right? Um, he still has a year in contract. However, his colleague Cass, who's a strategic coach, I believe that's his role within Mad Lions, has ended his contract and will be moving soon. So I think if we don't get Mac, we could at least try to get him. I think definitely needed to get a bit more of a strategic aspect here, either to reinforce Shaves, who you know this year wasn't able to be with the team the whole season, and in my opinion, once like the moments where he gets with the team, it's just a game changer. Like when we went into playoffs and he was able to be with us, the team was completely different. Now, I don't know if it's just him or if it's also like Humanoid who's decided to actually play. It's very weird, but yeah. I think those are people to consider for our new coach. The other one which really is going to break my heart is Hilly-Sang. Now, I've always valued Hilly-Sang very highly. I think he's definitely one of the greatest supports Europe has known, and it will stay that way for a very long time. Um, I just feel like his performance after since summer just hasn't been up to not top notch. And I don't know if it was because it was mainly because there were caster supports, but I think we need someone who's able to play all types of supports really well and not just be absolutely insane on engaged supports because he can just go in, die, and be like, oh, my team can take over because I trust them. That's his philosophy. He said it himself. I'm just paraphrasing what he's saying. But yeah, I think also the new generation of supports are doing what Hilly does. So I think they have been inspired by what he's done before, and they're able to play his champions, play his style. So even though there's a year left on his contract, I still think that we'll be seeing some change on the support role. The ideal situation would be to have Trimby. He, I think, will be staying with Rogue unless we manage to buy him out. But we'll see how that works out. But I think he's a very, very high value support right now, and probably the best support that has been in the league this season. I think Kaiser, I believe his contract is ending this year. Um, Kaiser is a very smart support, in my opinion, and I believe the shot calling he brings for Mad Lions would be very nice to see on Fnatic, and it would really give some other dimension to how we play the game currently. So, I believe both of these picks are nice to have and to consider. Ultimately, so this one's controversial. I think Labrov might actually be an interesting pick as well. I don't know what you guys think, but I kind of value Labrov, to be honest. I think he's not been on the right team. Being with Vitality is just kind of a bit of a death sentence. And I feel like, a bit like Upset, who's always kind of been doomed with other teams like Schalke and such to, not make playoffs, not go far enough. I think we can help him go that step further. The question is, how do these supports pair with Upset? That's another situation. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but those are the two I think are definitely going to move next season. Again, this is not me saying they should leave. I want to make that very clear. I'm just saying, if there are moves to be made, the most obvious ones would probably be those ones. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next. But in any case, some changes have to happen. What I'll also say is that since 3 of our 5 players were changed last year, I don't think we should make too many changes as well. Like, we need to keep a core. And that's why I think changing one player, here is probably the right move. So, yeah, and putting someone else at the head to see if we can mix things up. We'll see. There is one more change that I thought about last night. I'm gonna get super flamed for this, but now, first of all, I don't necessarily want to get rid of Razork. I think Razork played rather well for his first year in Fnatic. You have to consider that this is a guy who had a lot of how do you call it? Had a lot of confidence issues in himself, which kind of, stopped him from performing well. And then we've seen what he's capable of when, he's really unleashed. He's playing well with the team. He's feeling confident in himself. So, yeah, I think that Razork is, I think Razork should stay, but, and again, this is a personal belief. I think Jankos would pair super well with Humanoid. Because I think Jankos not only is historically the best jungler in the history of Europe, I think no one can contest that, but I think he's able to play more of a enabling style than Razork is, and really unleash players like Humanoid and Upset. And since he's already played with Wunder, there's already that synergy that's there. So, what do we do? What do we do? I wouldn't be mad about it. I think it would make a lot of sense. I would be sad to not have Razor because I think his personality is great. I think he has great talent as well. But if we had to really, I'd say, optimize our team, I strongly believe that this would be a move to make or to consider at least. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think about this. Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious about this take. I had this thought last night. I was like, what if? What would happen? What scenario would this work in? So yeah, you guys let me know in a comment below. But I think it could be very interesting, to be honest. It could be a very spicy situation. Nonetheless, guys, that'll be it for our podcast today. Final episode, or is it? Or is it? I'm gonna let you on a little secret. I've got a few interviews with some Fnatic people lined up, coming to you probably in November. I still have to get the times right, but a few Fnatic people have agreed to have interviews with me. One of them definitely you know very well. Another one who is known by some people, but I think you'll appreciate the interviews. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure to follow all the socials to make sure that you get the info as soon as it gets released. Guys, again, sorry for technical difficulties yesterday. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about everything I've just said today in the comments in YouTube. I read all the comments and I appreciate you guys' input. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the rest of Worlds. This has been Matt Scott's podcast, Inside Fnatic's Brush, second season, 2022. Thank you for following and see you on our next one.